So tallow is an incredible traditional food source that, stands way above the industrial seed oils, in my opinion. And even though it was once the main cooking oil in the US, or one of the main cooking oils, many people these days think it's not palatable. And the main reason they say that is because tallow can leave a waxy texture when you eat it in your mouth, like this waxy mouth feel. Now, I think that's just a food texture we've kind of lost and forgotten about. But regardless, I'm about to show you a way to incorporate tallow into your diet without having to worry about that waxy mouthfeel for, if you're a person that doesn't like that, but in a way that you're still going to get all the nutrients a high quality tallow can provide, because tallow can indeed have a lot of nutrients, especially if you're getting tallow from fat of a ruminant animal that was grass-fed, grass-finished, or even better if you're a hunter, from an elk, a moose, a deer that was out there living the best life in nature, eating all those good plants that nature can provide. And, you can either get a tallow from the store, you can make it yourself by rendering fat from the butcher or from the animals you get while hunting, or you can, use the tallow or the fat, I should say, that renders off when you're making bone broth. And that's what we did here. My partner Lindy actually made some bone broth from an elk I got during the 2024 hunting season here. And, when you use the bones from an animal like that, there's usually a lot of fat that comes out, and that'll float on the top of the bone broth when it cools, and you can just skim that off, and it's a beautiful white fat usually. And actually the bone marrow fat has the most nutrients from the research I've done. A lot of good stuff in there. So it also, tallow has a lot of good flavor, I think, and a lot of people I think would agree. And this is a great way to get that tallow flavor into your diet as well, especially again if the pure tallow, this waxy mouthfeel, is not your thing at all. So let's get into it. I recorded some videos while I was, making this thing today, which, by the way, it's tallow butter. That's what we're going to talk about today. So I'm going to show you how to make a tallow compound butter. Super delicious and super easy to do. So what I did is I took 8 ounces of grass-fed, grass-finished butter here, as you can see in the video, and got a beautiful yellow color. Often the really yellowy butter is the one that comes from grass-fed, grass-finished animals. Here we got the tallow. As you can see, super nice white tallow. This is all, again, from the bone broth, skimmed off the top, high quality, high nutrients in here, and super delicious. And you can kind of see that this is more of a, harder texture than a butter would be. And that's, again, it's a saturated fat that tallow has. It has a lot of saturated fat, but the good thing is the tallow actually has a ton of saturated fat called stearic acid. And stearic acid has a ton of health benefits. You can look into the studies. We actually just recorded a whole podcast, Year of Plenty podcast, that's on the YouTube channel, that's on all the audio platforms, that really dives deep into tallow and lard and explains the history behind those, traditional animal fats and cooking and whatnot. So definitely check that out if you want a deep dive. But let's go on with the video here. So then next up, what you're going to want is just heat up some water, and you're going to do this like double boiler method. So you basically need a pot that holds your butter and your tallow, and then this hot pot that you just kind of heat up some water in. You don't want it boiling, but just get it warm, simmering a bit. And by the way, I used 8 ounces of butter here and 2 ounces of tallow. That's kind of the ratio I use. Some people use a 1-to-1 ratio. It's all up to you. The more tallow you obviously use, the more waxy it's going to get. So then you just put that pot on top and let that stuff melt. It's going to take a little longer for the tallow, the saturated fat in the tallow is going to take a little longer than the butter. So, just make sure you whisk it while you're doing this, because this is kind of, you're going to want to emulsify these two fats, the butter and the tallow, and you're going to have to whisk a lot. Next up, you're going to take an ice bath, put that pot in there, and here you got to be careful. The tallow, the saturated fat in there tends to cool really quickly, and then it's really hard to blend with the butter. And, the butter kind of also, if it gets cold too fast, will get real flaky and it just becomes hard to mix. So here you're going to want to be constantly stirring, and only for about a minute or two in this ice bath. So I'm just stirring it real quick here. And you can kind of see here on the sides here already that if you look in the side of the bowl, you can see that the butter is already kind of sticking to the side and some of the tallow. So I was trying to really go as quick as I can so that doesn't happen to the point where it becomes a problem. But if you do it for a minute or two, you're totally fine. And then once you think you're in a good spot, it's going to start to get creamier and creamier, almost like a buttercream. Like here you can kind of tell it's like a buttercream texture. And then you can kind of take it out of this ice bath and just keep stirring it normally. And then you basically have your compound tallow butter. Like you could leave it at that, but here's where it kind of gets fun, right? Because now you can start adding all sorts of spices in there and herbs and salt and pepper, whatever you want to add to make your tallow like a tasty thing, right? Or your tallow butter, I should say. Now, I think personally just the butter and tallow by itself with some salt is already great. The tallow, especially coming from the bone broth, had a lot of flavor. What I used here is actually a wildflower blend mix, like herbal mix, that my grandma got me from Germany. Bunch of tasty European wildflowers in there. And here at the Year of Plenty, we are all about wild food and foraging. So I thought this would be a fun addition to the tallow. So I just poured a bunch in there, and you kind of want to do this while it's still pretty soft, obviously. Start mixing it hard again. You can really tell here now how much more, it's starting to harden up and become like a buttercream. But that's basically it. Once you have that, you can fill it in a jar, how I did here, or some people will, they'll use the butter paper or put it in saran wrap and kind of form a nice butter shape. That's all possible. Let your imagination go wild. I just used a clean jar for convenience, and we have a bunch. And, it's easy to store that way. But here, look at that. That stuff looks so good. And, man, let me tell you, it tastes so amazing, especially with that wildflower blend I added in there. But that's really it. I mean, it's as simple as that, guys. Try it out. I think you will really, really like it. And this is my first time doing this, actually, and I'm definitely gonna start doing it again, because I think this would be a really fun thing to have at home while some people come over, and make some fresh sourdough bread, spread some of this on there, maybe add a little chives on top, some fresh chives, and you got a super delicious, healthy appetizer. And if you're a hunter or whatnot, this is especially great because as hunters, people often don't use the fat from the animals to get, because of that waxy mouthfeel that the tallow has. It's really gotten a bad rep. The animal fat has gotten a really bad rep in the hunting community, but this is a great way to utilize that fat as well. Again, if you don't like the tallow just by itself. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a like. If you have a comment, like your opinion on this, maybe you've done this yourself, I'd love to hear it. So definitely don't be shy and leave a comment below. Thanks for watching.